Morning everybody, how are y'all doing today? I'm doing great myself because, you know, the drama from yesterday is finally behind us and we can move back to the salty fanboys. And that's what we're here to do today. And before we get into the video, I just want to say I have nothing against this guy whatsoever. I mean, you guys already know that if you've watched my videos for a while. I have nothing against anybody I make videos on, but I especially wanted to say that in this case, just because I actually ended up really liking this guy, just not the points he was making. And I'm in a good mood. I feel like giving out some compliments. So yeah, with that little disclaimer out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into this.
The Xbox Series X sucks compared to the PS5. What? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. And that's why this is so juicy.
Nah, I definitely have to say I think you are wrong. And based on the like to dislike ratio, a lot of people agree with my statement on that. But yeah, I'm gonna cut out the next like 10 to 15 seconds of his intro because it's a bunch of guitar riffs and stuff. And I have no idea if it's copyrighted or not, so I'm not about to risk my monetization just for that intro. So if it seems like there's a bit of a random cut, that's why.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Fanboy. And today we're gonna be talking about why, in my opinion, I'm gonna say that first. The PS5 is so much better than the Xbox Series X.
I mean, yeah, it's always important to remember these videos are always opinion based. So you might be wondering right off the bat, why are you making a video about this if it's just an opinion thing? Well, I feel like his reasoning is not there. And you guys will see what I mean in a second. But basically, his reasons don't necessarily make the console better. It's more so he's just like stating facts about it. But those facts don't necessarily make it objectively better. Like, you guys will see what I mean in a second.
Let's get into it. Now, I know I kind of already made this video a few months back, a little bit before the PS5 and the Xbox Series X launched, but having used the console for a few months now, it just solidified my decision. So that's why I kind of want to make this video a couple of months later. So let's get to the first point, the games. So the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, we're talking about the games that launched with these consoles, the games that are exclusive to these consoles. When you look at the Xbox, they've got no games. All of the games that they have available on Xbox Series X are available on the Xbox One.
That is true, but the games that are available on the Xbox One and Series X are going to perform better on the Series X. So if you want the graphic and frame rate updates, you're gonna have to get a Series X. Also, I know I'm gonna reiterate this point later on, but the game console having games exclusive to it does not make the console better. Yes, it is another reason to buy the console, but it does not make the console better. Starfield being exclusive to Xbox will not make the Xbox a better console. How good a console is determined by power, UI, operating system, services available on the console, controllers, stuff like that. And I think that's a very important distinction to make because I know a lot of people bring up the argument, oh, well, the Xbox, you can play all the games on the Xbox One, so the Series X is bad because of that. The Series X is not a worse console because of that. It just means there's less of a reason to get one. But games being cross-gen and allowing other people to, you know, have the option of staying back and not having to invest right now is a good thing. I think Microsoft is honestly doing the whole transition thing best, and they clearly must be because Sony copied them, where you have your cross-gen titles for the next like year or two, maybe 3 years, and then once the games are truly too big and too beautiful to run on the last gen consoles, by the 2 or 3 year mark, you've already given people plenty of time to invest in a new console. So they likely will have by then, and then you can start releasing the stuff only on the next gen. So I don't necessarily think that's a reason why the Xbox sucks, but let's let him elaborate a little bit more.
And Xbox Game Pass. So there's kind of like no incentive to have the latest Xbox Series X. I know the biggest one was Halo that was supposed to launch with the console, but that's been delayed. So it's a major hit to Xbox. Whereas PS5, they're not far ahead, but they're still ahead. The exclusives that the PS5 has right off the rip is the Demon's Souls remake. You get Astro's Playroom for free, but that game is kind of a demo, but it's still a lot of fun, but it does show off all the cool new features of the DualSense controller. There's Sackboy, there's Dirt 5, and then there's Godfall. There's 5 games right out the rip that are PS5 exclusive.
Well, you know what? At least you had the decency to correct yourself, so points for that. Because Dirt 5 is absolutely not a PlayStation exclusive. Hell, it's on Game Pass. It's pretty much the exact opposite of a PlayStation exclusive. And yeah, Astro's Playroom is a PS5 exclusive, but like you said, it's basically just a tech demo for the DualSense. So it's not really a valid game to use. And then on top of that, Sackboy was released on the PlayStation 4. Yes, it's upgraded for the PlayStation 5, but it's not a PS5 exclusive. It's also on the last gen. And now it's on PC. And like you said, yeah, I heard Godfall sucks as well. So basically your only 2 valid points there were a remake of a PS3 game and a tech demo for the PS5 controller. Honestly, dude, if those were the only examples I could conjure up, I probably wouldn't even have put that in the video, to be completely honest, because it really just ends up going against your point. And I feel like I should mention this. It should have been pretty obvious already, but this video was made a couple months after the Series X and S came out, you know, as he said earlier in the video. But anyway, with that being said, back to the video.
Don't count this new Spider-Man game, Miles Morales, because that game is also available on PS4. Call of Duty doesn't count because that game is available on both Xbox and PlayStation, and it's on the previous gen consoles as well. But when I look at the PlayStation, the exclusives that come out for this console are just leaps and bounds better than anything Xbox has to offer. Again, that's my opinion, and that's to the types of games that I play. So I play mainly Souls-like games, so like Demon Souls, Dark Souls, all made by the same publisher. Bloodborne is a big favorite of mine, also made by the same publisher.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's just what you prefer. I completely agree. If you want those third-person, over-the-shoulder action adventure / movie games, PlayStation is definitely the place to be. And he's gonna say this in a second, but yeah, if you want like the racing and shooting games and stuff like that, the more fast-paced games, then Xbox is definitely for you. I completely agree with that. But this goes back to what I said earlier about that doesn't necessarily make the console better. I'm just gonna throw this out here. I don't know if this is a hot take or anything. It might be, but I feel like something is either objectively better or objectively worse, and then it's just down to your opinion with how much do you enjoy it. Like there's things that PlayStation objectively does better than Xbox, and there's things Xbox objectively does better than PlayStation. But which platform you like is down to your own preference. I mean, again, that might be a hot take or something, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I don't think it's fair to say the Xbox sucks just because you don't like the game selection on it. You could say their games suck, but to say the console sucks because a very small portion of the games that are on it you don't like very much, I don't know. I don't really think that's a fair analysis personally. I think consoles should be analyzed for all the reasons I said earlier, like controller, power, UI, operating system, all that. But like this dude said, it's just his opinion, and that's just my opinion.
But if you're into Halo, then yeah, the only console that you play Halo on is the new Xbox. But yeah, I just still think with all of the exclusives that PS5 has, it just puts the PlayStation way further ahead of anything Xbox has going on right now.
Yeah, again, I don't think PlayStation is ahead of Xbox because they have more games that can only be played on their platform. I would say they're ahead for other reasons, like a new UI or the brand new controller, or how you go about swapping storage, which we'll get to in a little bit. But anyway, let's move on to point number 2.
Point number 2, the controller, the DualSense 5. This thing is legit. Sony knocked it out of the park by just putting a lot of development into the controller experience and then just adding a lot of new features to the DualSense controller as opposed to like the DualShock 4 controller. Whereas Xbox kind of went with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of route. And yeah, there are advantages to that because if you got like the Xbox Pro controller or if you have like a bunch of Xbox controllers, they'll work with your Xbox Series X. Whereas the PS5 controller only works with the PS5 and you can't use a DualShock 4 with the PS5.
Well, so far you're starting off this section pretty strongly in favor of Xbox. And look, I'm not denying the awesomeness of the DualSense. I haven't used one myself, but from what I've heard, it's a great controller. Although there are still the flaws, like I've heard of drifting issues. I know the battery life can be an issue sometimes. And I've heard the mic that's built into it kind of sucks. But I know for just playing games with like the haptic feedback and stuff, I know it feels extremely good. But yeah, like I said earlier, you're not really starting off this section too much in favor of PlayStation because you just named a bunch of reasons why some somebody might not want to switch to the PS5 because they can't use their old controllers on it, which is absolutely ridiculous. And in terms of the whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing, I honestly agree with that a lot. Sure, Microsoft could have had like better gripping or whatever. They could have added some better haptic feedback like the PS5 controller. They were very safe about upgrading their controller to basically only include the share button and that's it. But yeah, again, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Xbox One controller was great and the Series X is basically the same controller but with a share button. And on top of that, I just need to throw this out there. No, you cannot only use the PS5 controller on a PS5. You can use it on a PC as well. And if any PlayStation game comes to PC, if you play it with a PS5 controller, you get the haptic feedbacks that you would get from the PS5.
But it kind of makes sense with all of the added benefits that this controller has. Like the haptics are pretty cool. They're great haptics. They're nothing like anyone talked about. Like a lot of people were saying how much the haptics is like, you could like feel environments in the game. It's like, no, you can't. Like it just, they're good haptics. We'll just leave it at that. The controller feels good. The microphone is okay. The speaker on it is pretty neat for stuff. It's just a controller that feels great. Like it just feels great to play.
And I think Sony has a huge win by investing all of that time into this controller and improving that controller experience. Whereas the Xbox is kind of a lot of the same.
Well, like you said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, the new features on the PS5 controller are great, but extra features don't equal comfort. They can add all the haptic feedback they want, but as long as they keep those two sticks directly symmetrical to each other, I'm probably never gonna feel comfortable using a PlayStation controller. I don't know, every time I use one, it feels like I'm trying on somebody else's glasses. But let's keep going into his third point.
So my next point is going to be a little bit speculative, and it's, again, my opinion. So this is just something I'm sharing from my own experience with y'all. So in the past, Xboxes tend to always be a little bit more powerful than the PlayStation alternative. So maybe not the original Xbox One and the PS4. The PS4 did have some advantages technically.
But later on with the mid-series release, so the PS4 Pro versus the Xbox One X, everyone was touting how crazy powerful the Xbox One X was and how much more it was going to be able to do than the PS4 Pro. And look where that got them. Nowhere. Like, nowhere did any of the games look so much better that they just trumped the exclusives that the PlayStation had.
I mean, I definitely agree. The One X was definitely more powerful than the PS4 Pro, but ultimately it didn't see very big differences. But the power advantage is still there, even if it is minor. But really the problem I have with this point isn't really the point itself, because it does make sense. I mean, the power advantage is not much different. But this is a video all about why the Xbox Series X sucks, at least when compared to the PS5. And you're bringing up the fact that it's more powerful when you're trying to prove that it sucks. Even if it isn't much more powerful, it's still more powerful, and that's an advantage no matter how you try to twist it. The whole exclusive argument and like, oh, well, the games are still better on PlayStation even if it's not as powerful. You know, that's a completely different argument, and you already made yours earlier. But trying to argue that a console is worse than another because it's more powerful is, I don't know, that doesn't seem like a great argument tactic to me. This probably could have been left out entirely, in all honesty.
So it's kind of the same story again. Like the Xbox Series X kind of has some hardware enhancements or some hardware improvements over the PS5, but are you going to see that in any of the games? Probably not. And when you play these games side by side, when there are equivalents that'll work on both consoles, you're not going to see a huge difference. You might be able to pixel peep and like pick out some things that look a little bit better on the Xbox, but it never matters.
Because you could have all the technology in the world, but if your games aren't up to par, or if it's on the same library as another console, it's like, you're not going to win. The people are always going to pick what's on the most popular console. Doesn't matter what the specifications are.
Well, I wouldn't say that goes for everybody. Like, yeah, there are people who are just gonna pick the console based on popularity, and it's like, oh, if it can play the games, then cool. That's certainly a large portion of people. But to deny there's people out there who just want the most power possible, that's just kind of disingenuous, honestly. Because there's definitely plenty of people out there who just want the most power possible. A lot of the time, those people will end up getting a PC. But if they're in the market for a console and they want the most powerful one, then they're gonna go with the Xbox. Especially since if they've already decided in their head that, okay, I really want the most power possible, they probably don't really care about the exclusive games too much. They probably just want to play third-party games like Call of Duty, Minecraft, Madden, whatever, and they want to do so in the best form possible. Basically, my point is not everybody goes for popularity.
So the Xbox just lost out right there. One quick thing I have to get out of the way. I know a lot of people talk about how the Xbox Series X has that expandable SSD that they sell through Seagate, and how the PS5 has nothing right now. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I kind of explained it before. It's because the speed the SSD has to be, there aren't many out there right now that don't require a heatsink, and that's why the internals of the PS5, there's that bay for an M2 SATA SSD that is just turned off right now, and it's because there aren't SSDs out there right now that fit the hardware spec requirements.
Well, that sounds like Sony's fault for not getting on that faster. And also, how does this prove that the Xbox sucks? They already have their expanded storage out on day one. Meanwhile, PlayStation, you gotta wait a little bit. So I don't really see why this is a point. Let's see if he'll explain.
But as soon as that's available, that feature will be turned on and you can upgrade the storage easy. Whereas the Xbox, it has the proprietary port that you have to get those proprietary drives for. So in the short term, they are an advantage, but in the long term, they won't be, because you can't just open up your Xbox Series X and expand the storage. You have to use those proprietary drives. And the PS5, soon that functionality will be there and you can just install the drive yourself.
Okay, but even long-term, Xbox has the advantage because all you have to do is plug in the drive. I guess from a price point, they don't have the advantage, or maybe they do. I'm not exactly sure what the specific price points are. But in terms of ease of installation, they absolutely have the advantage. It's way easier to just plug a drive into the back of your console as opposed to taking the entire plating off and having to install it yourself, especially when a lot of people who are on console want ease of use. So I just don't really see how this is an advantage for PlayStation.
But for right now, a lot of people are putting on their entire PS4 library onto their PS5s because they just play so much better on the PS5. But what you can do is you can just get any regular ass external hard drive and put all of your PS4 games on that and then just plug that into your PS5 whenever you want to play PS4.
Yes, and you can do the same with Xbox. And from day one, you had access to expanded storage. On the PS5, you did not. Again, I don't see how this is an advantage for PlayStation, and I don't see how this proves that the Series X sucks. But anyway, let's move on to his last point.
Okay, my last point. Xbox's biggest advantage over PlayStation is also the same reason that's gonna bite them in the ass later on, and that is Xbox Game Pass.
So now the Series X sucks because of Game Pass. And yes, I know he's gonna elaborate on it, but good lord, I cannot wait to hear how paying $10 a month for over 400 games makes a platform suck. On top of that, this is extremely ironic, considering what, not 2 years after this video was posted, PS Plus got completely reworked to work like Game Pass, minus the day and date releases. God, this aged very poorly. Also, by the way, I think I should mention, I know this dude does have a video up about why Game Pass is so bad. Let me know if you want me to cover that.
So Xbox Game Pass, if you don't know, is a monthly subscription service where you get access to a ton of Xbox games that you can play unlimited, and you just pay a monthly amount. It's very similar to PlayStation's PS Now, but with PlayStation, the PS Now service hasn't really caught on because it's mostly been like PS3 or some PS4 games and some PS2 games. And the streaming rates aren't the greatest.
Again, it's so ironic that not even 2 years after this video came out, PlayStation reworked PS Plus to be exactly like Game Pass, but just not as good. But I don't know, man, the way you're describing it makes it sound pretty good. So how exactly is this a negative thing? How is paying $10 a month and getting access to over 400 games a bad thing?
And just the library hasn't been the greatest. But Xbox has really pushed for this Xbox Game Pass, and they've made it available on multiple platforms. So that makes me think, what the hell's the point of getting an Xbox when you could just get Xbox Game Pass and play those games on like your PC, or now you can even play it on Android, which is crazy. So they're kind of decentivizing themselves from getting customers to buy an Xbox where you could just get their Game Pass.
So I just want to get this straight. You would prefer they lock down Game Pass to only one platform, the Series X, and remove it from any other platforms that it works on just because you want to have a reason to buy the Xbox. Do I have that right? Because that just sounds extremely crappy if you ask me. Why would you want to get Game Pass if you can still get it on one of these other products? Because the games on Game Pass will play best on the Series X. And you can't use the argument of, oh, the PS5 is a similar power, because the PS5 doesn't have Game Pass, so that's why you get it. If you have Game Pass and you want to play all the games on there in the best possible form, you're gonna have to get a Series X. There's your reason.
And I know what you're thinking.
But on the Game Pass, a lot of the games that first release aren't available.
Well, not right now. A lot of the games that are releasing day one on Xbox Game Pass. So again, that kind of defeats the purpose of buying their latest console when you could just get their service. And it's a smart move because pretty soon no one's going to want to buy consoles. They're just going to want to buy games. And I think they're all going to go to a streaming service similar to Xbox Game Pass, but we're not quite there yet.
Dude, if the last few years with Stadia and everything have shown us anything, people are not ready to move to streaming anytime soon. But let me get this straight. Game Pass and the Series X both suck because eventually at some point in the future, even though we're not there yet, people are going to want to only stream their games. I mean, in that case, why would you want to buy a PS5 either? See what I mean? This point just does not make any sense at all. Look, I understand being worried about the future and like future-proofing your technology and stuff, but this is like saying you should never buy another iPhone because every year there's going to be a more powerful one, so why upgrade? Just wait for the next one. Oh wait, next one's here? Well, there's going to be another one. Let's wait for that one instead.
And I know what you're all thinking.
But Vonatron, you're neglecting to think about how Xbox just recently acquired Bethesda and all of these great game development companies.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But again, where are the games? And I know they probably acquired these companies and maybe they're in mid-development or almost finished some of the games, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft, being the company that they are, they just want the games released on as many platforms as possible to make the most amount of revenue from those games.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense to me. Why wouldn't they want the most money possible? And also, where are the games? Look, that argument is more valid now because they've owned Bethesda for a couple years now. But back when this video was made, they had just acquired Bethesda. Are you expecting them to spit out a new Fallout game or the Elder Scrolls 6 in a couple months? That's not how it works. We're probably not going to see those games for a couple more years. But yeah, if he made this video now, again, that would hold some more weight. But back then when they had just acquired them, dude, come on, you got to give them time. You don't want another Fallout 76, do you? But anyway, guys, that's actually gonna do it for this video. Yeah, the rest of it is just basically him giving his outro and him saying that he thinks that Bethesda games are gonna come to PlayStation, which that didn't age well. And there's nothing really much else to say at this point. Basically, what we learned is don't buy a Series X, and it sucks because, you know, no exclusives, who would have guessed, and because Game Pass is a good deal. Oh, and also because they actually launched the console with the expandable hard drives. Yeah, overall, this video just didn't make too much sense. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you all next time.